Back to the Meeple Marathon. Today we're going to talk about how to play the Mandalorian Adventures. So this is going to be a spoiler-free tutorial. You are seeing technically the first mission setup, but I wouldn't consider that spoilerish. Everybody's going to have to play through the first mission. We're not going to go any further into the guide deck other than the very first card, just so you guys can see how that kind of works. And yeah, so hopefully this can help you get started. This is not a very complicated game, but there are some interesting nuances to it that you'll need to understand. So before you start, especially very first game, you're going to take this guide deck and you're just going to flip over this first card. It simply says play mission 1, follow the setup instructions in the rule book, which are setting you up for that, and it gives you, and then technically you could remove this card or stick it underneath, because this one says stop. After you complete your first game, win or lose, flip this card and follow its instructions. So this is a fail forward type of campaign here. But the guide deck does a great job of telling you when to stop drawing cards from it. So setup is very straightforward. It tells you here in the upper left which characters are technically supposed to be playing this mission. So we're playing with the Mandalorian and IG-11, who are our two characters right here. If you're wanting to play with more than 2 people or solo, there are rules on how to make that happen. I'm playing solo, so I've actually taken their 2 decks and mixed them up, and so I have more than I need here, but this is for the purposes of teaching. But my deck is all mixed up, so I'm going to be showing these guys off using both of them for examples. It's going to give you your objective, your failure condition, your crisis, which we'll talk about here in a second. Additional stuff, this is how you unlock this door, which is this red line right here. And your starting point is going to have this little play symbol on it. And then all the rest of these tokens here are on various spots showing you their shape. So all the tokens that I've placed out have a number 1 on the back for mission number 1. But the ones that are just the shape and no question mark placed face up. So all the square ones, this one was pretty easy, all the square ones were randomized and then placed face up onto all these spots. Whereas you can see the circle ones all have question marks, and the triangle ones, which are right here, have question marks. So those were randomized and placed face down. We don't know where those are. For the purposes of this mission, the 2 key cards that we need to unlock this door are underneath some of the circles, 2 of the circles. The other 3 are bad for us necessarily. And one of these 2 triangle ones is Grogu, who we're trying to rescue. This is based on, that very first episode of The Mandalorian. We also have been added in these disrupt tokens here. These we'll talk about here in a second, but just know that it told you in the manual which ones to add there. So obviously, the purpose of each mission is to fulfill the objective without dying. There might be other failure conditions, but dying is always one of them. In a turn of the Mandalorian, you're going to be taking 2 actions. And those 2 actions, you can decide between the 4 basic actions here listed down: move, attack, intel, and plan. The names and the symbols for those actions are not going to change throughout all the missions. What you can accomplish with them may change. So that's why they're printed here in the rulebook, because on each page, the text here may be slightly different, but there always is basically going to be a move, an attack, intel, and plan. So what do we do on our turn to play those 2 actions? We're actually going to play cards out of our hand. Now these are called skill cards. They have a back that is unique to your character, and these backs are all similar. And then the front has some various artwork on them. Some of them are very basic, like this, that basically just has full artwork on it, and then a number in the upper left. Some have an additional icon below that. Others will have a whole text box down here. So on your turn, you're going to play one of these cards out of your hand to a spot and play it underneath that spot on the board. So if I want to take the attack action with a strength of 4, I'm going to play this number 4 skill card here. So I'm looking at the big red number in the upper left-hand corner, and that's going to tell me the strength of the attack action I could take. Or if I wanted to move 4, I would play it in this column. And so I get to move with a strength of 4. Here, intel is going to determine the range at which I can get some intelligence, and plan. This number tells me the strength, or how many cards I can draw. and then choose 1. So this number in the upper left-hand corner always determines the strength of the action that you're choosing. One other rule that's very important is whether or not you're playing solo and you're controlling 2 players at once, or if you're controlling just a single hero, you always have to play 2 cards. Whether or not you take the action, you have to place a card down, and the cards have to be placed at different actions. So you cannot say take the move action twice in one turn, or even the attack action twice in one turn. So you're placing down 2 cards in 2 different slots, and you're taking that action based on the strength listed up here. We'll get to all of what the actions do here in a second. At the end of your turn, you're going to go through here, and let's just say, for example, all of these cards have already been played out. At the end of your turn, after you've taken your 2 actions, you're going to check for an event phase. Now, event phase does not always trigger, but what you're looking for is a total strength in each column of 5 or more. So right here, we have a 3 plus a 2. That's why these tokens are here, because they'll mess with your overall count. This column is 5. This one is 4. Plus 2 is 6, so this is 5 plus, and even more. This one is 1 and 1, so there's no event that's going to happen right here. But these 2 are going to trigger an event. We'll get to triggering an event later on after we've discussed all the actions, but I just wanted you to understand that the choices you make on the strength of your cards may trigger events sooner rather than later. Obviously, if you take smaller actions, you're not going to be noticed as much. And the events are how the bad guys interact with you. So let's get back to our 4 actions now. Our 4 actions are move, attack, intel, and plan. Brief overview of each. Move basically allows you to move a number of spaces equal to the strength of the card you played. Attack allows you to deal damage, generally at range 1, which means you need to be either in the same space or next to a token, a threat token. And you deal the amount of damage equal to the strength of your card. Generally, you can only deal damage to 1 token at a time, but other card effects allow you to split your damage. Intel allows you to, within range of your face-down card. So if I played my 4 here, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. I could flip this token face up. If I only played a 2, though, I'd be kind of stuck. There's nothing, well, this guy is within range 2 of me. Optionally, if you don't want to flip over a token or you don't have any face-down tokens, you can use Intel to move an enemy or threat token 1 space in any direction within your range. So I could move within a range of 2. I could move this guy. I could push him this way. I could push him down. The reason you would want to do that is because when you're moving, anytime you move into a space with a face-down or face-up threat token, you have to stop your movement. These guys do not automatically fire on you necessarily, though, so if you move an enemy out of the way, you'll be able to sneak past them possibly on another turn. Last but not least is the plan action. The plan action allows you to, I just realized I hadn't brought these out yet, draw these smaller cards. So these are the only Euro-sized cards in the game. These are various bonuses or one-time effects that you can have and keep with you and play at the proper time. So some of them are strategize that allow you to draw additional skill cards and or take an additional action, or maybe they're defend, allows you to block 1 incoming damage, or even retaliate. There's also some bad lucks in here, which just have no effect, but they're useless. So the more cards you can draw and then choose from, the better that action will be. If you play a 1 here at plan and you draw a bad luck card, sorry, bad luck. Nothing can help you there. So those are the 4 actions. Now, let's talk about these skill cards and how we can boost those actions and or get free actions. So you have your basic cards here. They just have the artwork on them and no text. But some of them have these symbols, not all of them. Let's find one here. For example, this one does not. This one is just a basic one. This is probably the most basic card in your deck. But these 2 each have a plus symbol with a certain icon underneath them. This one has the plan icon, and this one has the attack icon. If you play these, Under the column or under the action that matches this symbol, you get to increase this value by 1 for the purposes of taking your action, but not for the purposes of counting up 5 plus for an event. So it can help you, it gives you a boost, but it does not boost anything towards triggering an event or a crisis. So, pretty straightforward, just look to match the symbols. You don't have to, you could play this card here and still take the attack action with a strength of 1. But if you strategize well and play it there, you're getting the bonus. And then there are other cards like these, which have the text on the bottom, where you'll notice there are the same symbols listed down here in the lower left, and then attack. It also tells you the words here: intel, move, attack. If, in similar fashion, if I play this card to the matching action column, I get to also do what's in this text box here. So this one says, for example, instead of performing this action, deal 3 damage to a threat at exactly range 3. So instead of taking a normal 3 damage action of someone adjacent to me or in my same space, I can instead, if I play this, take a ranged 3 attack action. But again, I could play this card here and choose to draw 3 cards for plan, and I simply then just ignore this text at the bottom. And here you can see all of these give you various things. This one says move 1 space for or after taking the intel action. This one says deal 2 damage. So sneak attack allows you to move and attack within the same action. So we've taken our turn. We played our 2 cards out. Some of them may stack on top of other cards. For example, we may have a situation like this, where we have a 1 and a 2 and a 2. So I'm just going to slide this over for the purposes of this example. But at the end of every turn, not at the end of a round, but at the end of any player's turn, so they have taken 2 actions, you're essentially going to give a chance for the AI or the threats to take their turn. So what you're going to do is you're going to check each column, and you're going to see if the total number is 5 or higher. Ideally, you want to hit on exactly 5 or keep it below 5. So in this case, we hit on exactly 5. This means a threat is going to be triggered for this one. We're going to clear away these cards, and we're going to clear away this disrupt token. Now, in scenario 1, we don't replace that disrupt token. So that basically means that more events are going to fire off early on in the game, and then things will cool down a little bit. Other scenarios may change that. They may tell you to draw and add a random threat or disrupt token here. But here is one event that we need to take care of. Since the number is exactly 5, all we do is draw the top card of the event deck and resolve it. So let's just see what this one says. This one has a question mark, so we're unsure what is going to be triggered here, whereas this one is telling us that any number of these symbols could be triggered. And let's say this one here is all of the sharpshooters, for example. So we know that if we're adjacent to someone who's a melee attacker with this kind of vibro axe symbol here, and this card is sitting next on the event pile, we're probably safe. There's no guarantees, but the symbols on the back give you a general idea of what's on the flip side. So in this case, we would clear away these cards. They would go into a discard pile. We can shuffle up and gain later. This token would be removed, and we would resolve an event. This one says draw attention. Flip the nearest face down threat face up. Okay, so we would flip over a token in this case. Let's look at a different one. These are more of your standard event cards that give you symbols to follow, and you would always resolve these from top to bottom. So this one's telling you to look for all of the characters with this symbol. You're going to choose one, and it's going to move 3 spaces. Now you get to choose. It could be somebody really far away from you, as long as the character can move at least once. So in this case, we would look here and we say, all right, here's a vibro axe, and here's a vibro axe. Well, this guy would go 1, 2, 3 and end up in our space. Maybe we want to do that. Maybe we want to be able to take him out, because this guy's a 4. So these are the decisions that you get to make as the current player or character. So if we move this guy 1, 2, 3, maybe we go this route and go underneath, but then there's all these tokens up here we're ignoring. So This is a decision that you have to make on your own. In this case, we'll just move this guy 1, 2, 3. Also, normally our standees would be standing up above him like so. Also, then you're going to see that in this case, the marksman or the people with the pistols, that dashed line means we get to, you choose one or the other. This number is telling us how many. So if this number had been a 2, both of these guys would have moved to 3. But this guy's saying just one person with a pistol or marksmanship at range 2 makes an attack. Now, in this case, we can't choose, say, this person. If there's a person within range 2 of us, we would have to go ahead and make them attack us. We can't choose people in the back to always take that action. In the purposes of counting range, you can go around buildings. You can even go through these elevated sections, which are denoted by these orange dashed lines. You cannot count these red boxes, however. You have to go around this space, not through it. And you can go through other characters, other standees. The line of sight and range rules are very liberal in this game, which is nice. Not too much to think about. So in this case, this guy is 1, 2, 3, 4 spots away. So not even he can make it. These guys are definitely way out of range. So in this case, there is no one we can have to take the shoot action. If this had been the only, if this top part of the card had not existed, and this would have been the only thing there, this means that this action couldn't be taken. Nothing changed about the game state. They did not attack us. They did not move. Nothing was able to be accomplished. If that's the case, if it's a kind of a dud card, you instead do a respawn action. So let's talk about that now. These are your spawn tokens. These are the brownish tokens that are always going to have that pentagon symbol on them. And you would simply draw one of these, flip or take the top one, flip it over, and place them on these star spaces, whichever one is closest to you. At this point, I think they're both the same distance away. So we would just pick one and drop it there. So you don't ever get a break from events. If events do nothing, end up accomplishing nothing, then you reinforce the threat tokens. That's pretty much how the event cards go. The only difference between conducting an event where you have hit exactly 5 versus conducting an event where you have gone over 5 is that over 5, you need to consult this crisis area here. So here you can see 6 plus. Anytime it's 6 or more, we're going to do this, whereas on the event cards, it's 5 plus. So at 7 here, we have to do both. This tells us that we have to take a damage token, place it here, and once we have accumulated 3, we do a reinforce action. So these guys, we would do this. We would pull both of these off here, discard them. We would resolve the crisis event, and then we would resolve our regular event. And then discard it. You'll notice that this guy who is sitting at a 4 gets left behind. So that allows you to get to the point where you're always going to be triggering events for every action unless you completely ignore a basic action. But playing lower numbers isn't going to give you as big of an action to take, but it's going to slow down the event process and how quickly those happen. If any of your decks ever run out, you simply will reshuffle the discard pile and create a new deck. That does not trigger an endgame or fail condition or anything like that. Finally, at the end of your turn, you will draw back up to 4 cards. So in this case, I'm playing solo, so I have a mixture deck. I would simply, in this case, draw 2 IG-88 cards, and there may be a time where I only have IG-11 cards in my hand and can only control IG-11, or there may be times where I only have Mandalorian cards in my hand. Either way, you continue taking turns, or in your case, solo turns, until you have either completed the objective, which in this case is getting into this bunker and finding Grogu, one of these 2 tokens, or one of you dies, which is the failure condition. After that, you would come back to your guide deck, and you would flip over this next card, whether you win or lose. Again, this is a fail forward event. A few things that we talked about but didn't go into detail on. Anytime a character does attack you, sometimes it'll tell people with the guns or the sharpshooter symbols that they can attack you at range. Other times these guys will say if they are adjacent or in your same space. they'll tell you the range on the card, but all of them hit for a single point of damage. So you only ever take 1 point of damage, you place it on your card. There's a few ways to heal up, but not many. A lot of these are double-sided, so you can just flip it over if you've got 2 damage. Same thing with the characters. If you don't produce enough damage, you say you only hit this guy for 1, and he's got 2 health, you would just put a little token on him. And then when you do the second point of damage, you would remove him and his damage token from the map. That's it. Like I said, very straightforward. The nuances of deciding when to play the cards and how high of a number you want each column to get to is a very interesting gameplay mechanic for this particular game, because a lot of these cards, especially the ones with fun actions on the bottom, are going to have high numbers. It means you're going to be taking a really big turn and doing a lot of stuff on your turn or a lot of damage, but you're also going to be triggering events faster, which could have negative consequences for you. So, very interesting gameplay. We'll probably do a gameplay at some point here on the channel. Probably not the first scenario. This one's been done a lot. We'll do a scenario down the road where I'm not spoiling any of the story, but you can just see that one scenario encapsulated in its entirety. So, otherwise, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.